Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today. We're going to get started in about 2 minutes. We'll give everyone some time to hop on and get settled into the Zoom. So I think it's always fun to share in the chat where we're coming from because we're coming from literally all over the country and even from all over the world. So I'm going to go ahead and go first. If everyone else would like to share where they're joining from, I'd love to read some responses out loud. The Bay Area, nice. Oregon, Kansas, Michigan, Arkansas, Puerto Rico, wow. South Carolina, West Virginia, wow, we really are coming from all over the US. This is very exciting. West Virginia, Maryland, California, wow, East and West Coast, awesome. All right, since we're at a minute after the hour, I think it's good if we go ahead and get started. So I'm just going to start us off today with a very quick introduction to OpenStax and our partnership with learners. So let me just share my screen. Perfect. So hi, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today for our webinar on teaching psychology with an enhanced OpenStax Smart Textbook, adaptive quizzes, live polling, interactive lecture slides. My name is Lindsay, and I'm a marketing specialist at OpenStax, and I'm joined by Arvin, the founder and guru of personalized learning at Learner. So many of you are probably familiar with what OpenStax is, but if you're new to OpenStax, there's a few key things you'll want to know. So first and foremost, OpenStax is a nonprofit organization, and we're umbrellaed under Rice University, which is located in the amazing city of Houston, Texas. As we are a nonprofit, we're able to sustain our operations and create our free textbooks due to philanthropic support from foundations like the Bill Melinda Gates Foundation, as well as from individuals who give us individual donations of like $5, $10, $15. In addition, we're also able to support our operations through mission support fees that we receive from our OpenStax allies like Learner. So essentially, anytime an instructor pairs one of our free textbooks with one of our low-cost technology partners, we get a small mission support feedback that helps to sustain our operations. Next, OpenStax is mission-oriented. So our aim is ultimately to transform learning so that education works for every single student, is ultimately more accessible and affordable. Since we published our first textbook in 2012, we have published a library of over 45 textbooks in a variety of different subject areas. And in the process, we've saved students over $1.7 billion. One of OpenStax's main areas of work is publishing free, openly licensed textbooks. But what exactly does that mean? So OpenStax publishes openly licensed textbooks, so OER, and we have a fantastic definition up here on the screen from the William and Flora Hewlett Foundation, which is a fantastic supporter of OER. And in essence, open educational materials or OER are any educational materials that are publicly available, are available in the public domain, don't cost anything to use, and don't have any restrictions on them as to how users can modify or edit the content. As I mentioned before, one of OpenStax's main areas of work is publishing our library of over 45 free openly licensed textbooks. We offer textbooks in the areas of math, the natural sciences, the social sciences, the humanities, business, and college success. All of our books are designed to meet the standard scope and sequence requirements of their respective courses and are written and reviewed by industry experts. Each of our books also goes through an extensive editorial process to ensure that the content is up to date, clear to understand, and representative of diverse communities and audiences. Lastly, each of our books receives regular editorial updates, so instructors can submit suggestions for updates on our website, and we ultimately revise our books when it's pedagogically necessary. So if there's a huge new development in a field, we may publish an entirely new edition like we recently did with our astronomy textbook. Or when there's like smaller updates throughout the year, we'll just update the online version of our textbooks to ensure that the content is up to date and relevant. Overall, our textbooks are a lot like other textbooks that exist on the market. However, unlike textbooks that aren't OER, our textbooks are 100% free and are available under an open license. So instructors like yourselves can edit and modify and rearrange and revise the content any way that you'd like. At OpenStax, we are more than just a textbook. So each of our free textbooks also comes with free instructor and student resources like test banks, lecture slides, and LMS course cartridges. In addition, we offer free webinars like this one and free articles on our blog on topics like tips for teaching and tips for using our resources in your classrooms. In addition, OpenStax also has OpenStax Tutor, which is our flagship courseware platform, as well as our support center, which is a really excellent resource to turn to if you have any questions about how to use our resources or want to come into contact with one of our customer support representatives. Lastly, we offer OpenStax Tech Scout. So we know how difficult and challenging and time-consuming it can be to find courseware and simulations and labs and online homework for your courses. So we decided to streamline this process through offering a searchable tool on our website where you can search for courseware, online homework, etc., that align with each of our textbooks and that ultimately meet your teaching needs. And Learner is one of the technology tools that you can find through Tech Scout. As part of our work to make education more affordable, we partner with technology companies like Learner that offer low-cost, high-value education technology resources. In the process, Learner helps to enrich the OpenStax experience for instructors and students alike and helps to provide the financial support that OpenStax ultimately needs to keep our books current and accessible. So going off of that, I am now going to turn it over to Arvin to talk more about Learner and OpenStax psychology. Arvin, you're muted.
Oh, I'm sorry. Let me share my screen real quick. I will go from there. Okay. All right. I'm presuming everything is visible.
You're good. Yeah.
Okay. So let's see for a minute. Almost. Slideshow. All right. So we'll kind of keep it brief on the slideshow and then we'll follow up with the demo and then we'll do Q&A. So thanks everybody for joining this webinar. My name is Arvind and I am the co-founder of Learner. We also have the other co-founder, Venkat, who's also on the call. As part of this demo, let's go through some quick facts about Learner, some of the best practices, followed by a brief demo, and we'll kind of summarize it and then see if this is something, the combination of OpenStax and Learner, if that's something that suits your needs. So who are we? So we are a company that we performed probably in 2013. I left Pearson. I was one of the principal architects at Pearson. So a lot of the platforms that you're probably well aware of, like MyMathLab, Mastering Bio, Mastering A&P, those are all, those are the days when, I was architecting these platforms. So I'm very familiar with the education space, been in this education publishing for the last 22 years. But I realized that the cost of education was getting out of whack. And the cost of textbooks and homework solution and classroom engagement, all of that was kind of going out of whack. And I wanted to kind of democratize that whole thing. So our mission at Learner is really to bring together everything that OpenEd can provide, along with formative content, along with classroom engagement, and provide that for an affordable price without compromising quality. Okay, so we do create pretty much everything that we do, we align to OpenEd. So we either curate from OpenEd or we create our own so that we can control the costs. And then we build homework solutions, align that to the textbook. So it's tightly integrated. And then we've now started building classroom engagement tools. Again, everything is tightly integrated into OpenEd. And for life sciences, we're also building labs, but of course, we're talking about psychology here. And the goal that we have is to build something very similar to what you are familiar with Netflix, where for a single price, we would like to provide as many 100 to 300 level courses. And that's kind of the goal for the next 3 years. And beyond, we'll see where we go with that. So every single course that we build, especially, some of you might be just teaching psychology, some of you might be teaching biopsychology. And I've seen some instructors asking us, hey, can I, get some chapters from the anatomy and physiology textbook that OpenStax provides? So with us, what you get is every single course is a custom course. So we build the course for you based on what your needs are. So you could pick and choose titles from the Psychology 2E textbook, the biology textbook, A&P, whatever textbooks we have, you can pick and choose the titles, and that's the custom course we built for you. All the formative content, both the questions and activities have been built from the ground up. We do not use the OpenStack question banks. So these are all brand new banks for you guys to use. We integrate with pretty much all the traditional LMSs, and I have a pedigree of building platforms. So that comes naturally with this platform. Canvas, Blackboard, Brightspace, Moodle, anything that's LTI compliant, we can integrate with. One of the other things that we made sure happens is we want to make sure that every single student gets access first day of class. So we do have a 2-week trial period for students if they drop out, in the 2 weeks, or if they want to figure out their financial aid. So we give them the 2-week trial so that they get enough time to get to pay for our affordable fee. We also work on different models. We are working on grant programs, inclusive access programs, bundles. So it really depends on what your department has. If it's a traditional purchase by the student, that's typically what we support, but we work with all different types of models. We have support 7 days a week for the first few weeks, almost 4 to 6 weeks of the semester. And then we do have support 6 days a week. Typically, our support is available on Sundays because most students that are given homework will come last minute. It's typically Sundays, and they want to help. So, and then as part of our mission to help disadvantaged students, what we also do is we take 5% of our revenue, we earmark it, and we help students that can't even afford the prices that we have. So essentially, we do work in various parts of the country in the US. So some colleges have more disadvantaged students than the others in terms of finances. So we end up in some cases even giving up to 10%. But the goal is to make sure that every single student has access to high quality resources. So with psychology, some of the quick facts, we do have, again, created a bunch of questions from the ground up. I think that's a pretty old stat. We probably have maybe 20% more questions. What we do is every 12 to 18 months, we also scour the internet for Chegg and Quizlet and tutor.com to find questions, right? So that we don't want students to simply go and copy from somewhere and then answer the question. Kind of defeats the purpose. So we do try to refresh questions in a timely fashion. We also have 3D models because we have a partnership with Google Body. Actually, it's called Zygote Body now. So with that, you also have access to 3D models. And again, with psychology, it's more for biopsychology, especially trying to understand the brain and how memory works with the brain and the whole 9 yards, right? I'm no expert at psychology. I just have skimmed through the text for this demo. So I did talk about having an integrated textbook. The goal for us is we just don't want to give you yet another online e-reader where it can be pretty and you can highlight, bookmark, and take notes. We do all of that. We also, if a student highlights, bookmarks, and takes notes in specific chapters and sections on Learner, we create a small study guide for the student. So, and the study guide again links back to the textbook so they can kind of go back and forth. As students love to prepare for the midterm or final. So we have made that happen. Apart from that, we've also curated high quality videos that are 508 compliant, flashcards. Then we have created our own terms and definitions for flashcard decks. And we've built quizzes and activities. We have some 35 different activity types. And we can also upload the slides that OpenStax has provided. But let's say you want to upload your own slides. We have a live platform where you can actually upload your live slides, and then you can integrate or embed activities between the slide deck, and then make your class section in person or completely virtual synchronous class sections. You can make them more interactive. Assessment content, 70% of our questions are written at a higher level of blooms. I think one instructor in the registration asked me, like, what does that mean? So we don't want students to cram through the course. So we try to write questions at a comprehension level or application level or critical thinking. So we give them scenarios, and based on the scenarios, we ask questions, and I can show that to you in a minute. And majority of our questions have wrong answer feedback because every single question and answer that when a student gives a response, we have created questions in such a way that every single distractor is related to the question. And we also provide them the feedback for the distractor that they have selected, rather than simply saying you're wrong. And I was also asked a question as to who creates these question banks. All the questions on Learner, in psychology has been created by instructors with over 10 to 15 years of experience, in the US in higher ed market, where they've taught intro level psychology or an advanced level psychology course. So every one of these questions have been created by people out here who understand the students in various demographies. And let's kind of move on to the next. Oh yeah, assignments. So you can build assignments on Learner. You can build both your homework, which is typically what most instructors do, with some grade points, without which, as I'm preaching to the choir, nobody's going to do your homework if you don't have any grade points associated with it. You can also take your tests on Learner, so it avoids you from using a responders or a honor lock or just another system where you have to type all your questions in or upload your questions, and then there's a lot of pain of logistics, right? So with Learner, in the test mode, you can lock down Learner. That means a lot of students want to open multiple windows, have a device open, and in the device they would like to look at their homework while they're answering the questions. So essentially, Learner, once a student is taking the test, doesn't matter from where the student is accessing Learner, it all goes back to the test. You can customize your quizzes and activities on top of whatever we provide. You can build your own questions and activities on Learner. We have a pretty easy to use templates, Visivig editors, where you can build different types of questions and activities. In fact, one of the nice things about Learner is, especially for those who are using, let's say, Moodle or Blackboard or the old version of D2L, if you, let's say you're teaching 2 or more classes, right? You will have two courses or two or more courses in your LMSs, and you would have to replicate that whole assignment process so many times, right? Everything is like you have to multiply it. With Learner, you not only can you build an assignment once and then assign it to multiple class sections, you can also share your assignments with other instructors to kind of normalize it. And especially during COVID, where we've seen some hybrid models where departments out of need, especially to come back to the class as soon as possible for in-person, they have almost standardized their courseware, whether it be it Learner or some other provider. And what they do is they say, okay, these are the same assignments that everybody provides. This is the same syllabus, for the same, obviously the same course. So for whatever reason, God forbid, one instructor gets COVID and they have to quarantine, then a different instructor can come and pick up the slack. So essentially, there's been we've been noticing or observing a lot of different changes in how COVID has, how instructors and departments have adapted to the new way we learn and we live. So templates are amazing because it almost feels like online bill pay for banking. So once you build an assignment, you can literally share that assignment with somebody else so that they don't have to do the groundwork of doing it all from scratch. They can copy yours and then they can modify it. It becomes really fast and easy. We also automate the submission process for assignments. So essentially, we want to remove a lot of the barriers where it takes a lot of time for you to do grading, to move grades, across systems. All of that is taken care of. It's automated. So for all of your learning management systems, after the due date, student grades automatically get pushed. So you don't have to do anything. And for Canvas specifically, we also create deep links, which means every single assignment shows up as a hot link on your Canvas assignments module, and students can literally click on it and go to their assignments. So now let's talk about student engagement. So we talked a little bit about homework, and I'll show all of this, hopefully. We're doing good on time. With live polling, probably a lot of you might have used in the past, pre-COVID, iClicker and other tools like Kahoot or Top Hat. And obviously with COVID, you might have used Zoom a lot, Nearpod. There's a bunch of tools out there, right? So we thought why don't we just add that into the platform, into our solution, so that you don't have to use yet another tool. And then again, Gradebook Sync. And then students now have multiple technologies to deal with. So there's a lot of learning of technologies rather than focusing on the course, right? So with us, you can build a live poll, a quiz. You could also, obviously the whole idea of live polling is to assess your student gaps in real time and also engage your students, especially if you're a synchronous class and it's virtual or even in person. You want to know what your students are doing, are they following, and so on. So you could upload your lecture slides, whatever slides you use. If you want the OpenStax lecture slides, we can upload it for you and keep it ready. And then you can embed activities within these lecture slides to make it more interactive. So some of the uses of lecture slides and obviously live polling, like we talked about, student engagement, understanding the class progress, figuring out the gaps in real time, and simple, collaboration and attendance, right? So we've seen people use polling just for attendance. And the strategies of using in-classroom engagement is you can reward participation. So essentially, if you want students to engage with you, you say, okay, if you do this poll, you get 1 point, whatever you want to give, right? And you can also reward for efficacy. It is completely anonymized. So essentially, with our product, you get to see who answered what after the fact. So you don't get to see that in real time because there's a lot of peer pressure. People don't want to be caught saying, oh, you got it wrong, right? And you could use helper slides, whiteboards. So we are investing a lot of our engineering into building more classroom engagement tools that make it highly effective. And the future is that we are going to also you will have the ability to take our activities, our questions, and embed them into a lecture slide so that you don't have to create everything from scratch. And then you can have an interactive session with your students. Everything that we provide is ADA compliant. It's completely based on HTML5 standards. So it works on multiple screen sizes, except the 3D models and the identification based activities where you watch, you look at an image and identify. Those are the two things that no publisher, can make it ADA compliant. Because the moment you start defining the image or explaining the image, you're giving the answer away. So they're not ADA compliant. These are all the courses that we have. Psychology is again a premium course. All of our courses are priced between $20 and $40. We also have a library model, especially for those of you who might be department chairs or deans. So essentially, it's a seat-based model, very similar to software licensing. So you don't pay by student, you actually pay by seat. So if one or more departments are using Learner, then obviously that $80 per year makes a lot of sense. And one other thing I would like to mention is that when students get access to Learner, and let's say they flunk or they get an incomplete, they can come back within the next 12 months and retake the course. We don't charge them again. And students don't usually lose access to Learner. The only thing that we remove access for them is typically their assignments and their gradebook, because we do not want them to share those assignments that you've painfully created to their juniors or their boyfriends, girlfriends. So that's the reason why we remove access at the last day of the term, where they still have access to the textbook, the practice quizzes, activities, to play around with it. So so it's time for a live demo. Does anybody have any questions at this point before I start the demo? Is there specific things that you're looking for? All right. Either I'm doing a really good job or you're probably already asleep. In either case, let's move on. All right. So every single course takes the same structure. We have the learn. So yes.
There's a quick question before we get into the demo. Question on the licensing models. I mean, the question is, can you re-explain the library versus individual fee?
So okay, so Kelly, thanks for that. The way the library model works is the $80 per year per seat. It actually gives access to all courses on Learner for that one seat. So essentially, let's just put it in context. Let's say you have 100 students in fall, right? And you buy 100 seats. Seat, it's SEAT, not seed. I'm sorry, my English might be, my pronunciation might be bad. So every single seat or license, you can call it a license, right? Allows access to, one license allows access to all courses. So you can give that license to a student, let's say in the fall semester. And let's say in your department, you might be using psychology and sociology, or another department might be using Learner for biology. And let's say the same student is enrolled into all these 3 classes, right? So that one license is sufficient for all those 3 classes where Learner is being used. And let's say the same student drops out in the spring semester, right? You can allocate that seat or license to a new student for the spring semester. So essentially, the new student will get accommodated with the same exact license without having to again pay for that student. And you can do that for fall, spring, and summer. So it's pretty much 3 terms. So even if a student is using Learner or is enrolled to courses that use Learner, for only one course, it still is the same cost. But if there's more than one course, then obviously there's huge price savings in that. But the fact that we allow you to take a license and then switch out students makes it very attractive for departments and institutions. So we work with we are actually working with multiple institutions, big and small. We have some like Dallas College, where it's huge, right? 80,000 students or something like that, where they use this model pretty efficiently. It's very similar to an inclusive access model. The only difference is that we don't charge by student access anymore to save more money for the institution. Correct. Yeah, institutions do pay for the seats. And sometimes we work with the bookstore because somehow the bookstore magically gets involved in this to get a piece of the pie. So yeah, we work with bookstores like Barnes and Nobles and Follett all the time to make this happen. All right. So I'll take more questions at the end of the demo. Just give me 15, 20 minutes to showcase what we have, and then we can focus back on some of the questions. The Learn mode is really where the OpenStax textbook resides, but this is the OpenStax, the enhanced version of the OpenStax textbook. Then before going into the textbook, let me talk to you about all these different tiles. As an instructor, if you're already familiar with the OpenStax textbook, you really don't need to go into the practice quizzes or the flashcards or the activities or the videos. All of this is available to you while you're building an assignment. So when you build an assignment, you can preview pretty much everything that I'm going to show you, except the textbook itself. So the textbook, you need to be familiar with the textbook. So once you're familiar with the textbook, everything else that we provide to you as formative content, you can preview that while building an assignment rather than going through all of this one by one. Okay. And the textbook, which is a smart textbook, contains the quizzes, the activities, flashcards, 3D bodies, all of that are embedded in here. Let me show you how. So this is your typical, responsive textbook, if you will. And let me go to something like biopsychology, brain and the spinal cord, or something like that. So as you're scrolling through content, what we do is on the right-hand side, we load videos, curated videos, whether it is from Bozeman Science, from BC Campus. They're all, again, 508 compliant. We make sure that the closed captioning works, the whole 9 yards. So from a student standpoint, they can watch their videos right from here. They can also dock it to retrieve it later. We have an adaptive quiz. These are flashcard decks. And obviously, these are terms and definitions. And as you're scrolling through content, what we do is we kind of load the most relevant supplemental or formative content for the students to consume. So we also load other modalities like videos. We obviously load the flashcard decks, but we also provide activities as students are going through the parts of the textbook. And the way we do that is, depending on whatever is being shown on the screen, we identify the topics that are being covered, and that's how everything changes in our adaptive sidebar. So let's actually look at a few activities. We have 35 different activity types. I think we've probably used about 8 to 10 activity types for psychology. And I'm just doing a drag and drop activity. If I do not know how to do this activity, typically for a student, when they're coming to this activity for the very first time, they get this pop-up on how to do this activity. And if that doesn't work, they can click on help. All the help in Learner is contextualized, which means that, it doesn't matter where you are on Learner, whether it's an instructor or a student, depending on what you're doing, if you click on the help, that help actually opens up a contextual menu, or, it provides you help for that specific action. Okay. So let me click on check answer. And I got every one of them wrong. Serves me right. And you also see that the reason why there's a strike through is to accommodate colorblind students. Okay. As an instructor, you can click on show answer because we're not trying to test you. And as an instructor, you also have this little report an issue. So you can literally report an issue on any activity, any question that we have. And within 24 to 48 hours, it goes directly to our editorial team. They look at it, they respond to you, and then we take care of it. Okay, let's go back. So let's look at the other, the adaptive quiz here real quick. So we're looking at Sam suffered damage to his broca's area and experienced difficulty in writing and dash. So let's check answer. So right now, I do not know the answer. I can click on the reference link. The reference link takes me back to a specific area in the textbook. And then I could go back to my quiz and respond. So like I mentioned to you, we provide both right and wrong answer feedback. And in this case, this is a hybrid question. So what happens is I did not spell it right the first few times. It converted the same question to a multiple choice. And I can still answer the question, obviously. And like I said, so in hybrid questions, they start off as fill in the blank questions. So what we're doing is we're also measuring rate of recall. It also, fill in the blank questions are a much better type of question to really understand what the student knows or does not know the answer. And we also recommend that when you provide adaptive quizzes on Learner, please provide at least a couple of attempts. So it actually helps in the spaced recall. And if a student doesn't really know the answer, they can simply click on give me options. And it converts to a multiple choice. So essentially they lose some game points. And we've also added some humor, to break the ice. We don't want it to all be serious. Learning should be a little bit of fun as well. So yeah, this is how our adaptive quizzes are created. And there's usually, the bank size is typically 15 questions or something like that. Students typically answer 6 to 10 questions in an adaptive quiz. And the level of both difficulty and blooms keeps modifying or modulating based on both the objectives and also how the students are answering the questions. Okay. I did tell you that we do have 3D bodies and also 3D activities. So some of the biopsychology and we have a brain and spinal cord here. And then I think for sensation, maybe for vision and 3D, for vision and hearing, we do have some 3D models that you can use. So let's look at one just to get an idea. So this is a selection-based activity. And you can also build your own activities out here. Just selecting something. First of all, I need to try again. Selecting something and saying check answer. So again, we have built feedback into both activities like this, as well as your typical questions. And let me show answer. So essentially now if you select that, then that would be the feedback that you would get. And we have different activities of different types of activities. We have labeling activities and so on and so forth. So in this case, you look at the leader lines and figure out what that is. Cerebellum, cerebrum, that kind of thing. All right, so that's to do with activities. And like I mentioned, activities also are aligned to your chapter sections. And if you have activities in 3D, they are having a prefix of 3D. So we don't kind of combine the 2D activities and the 3D activities. we just keep it separate. So it's easy for you to, while creating your assignments, it becomes very easy. And everything else like flashcard decks, practice quizzes. So if students wanted to be proactive and get a little bit more practice, they could, instead of going through the textbook, they could simply go to the practice quizzes and activities and go by chapters and sections, and they can take their own. They can watch all the videos that they want. They can even explore the 3D bodies that we have. We have both the male and female, and also different sagittals of the brain and other parts of the body. We do have hierarchy tools where you could literally dissect and then I'm gonna take out everything but the brain. And then you can use tools to explode. So essentially, it's just giving you an idea to help students on figuring out what the amygdala looks like, what the hippocampus looks like, and where is fear and aggression. I mean, basically, talking about it from a biopsychology perspective, and that's pretty much what 3D bodies are for, right? Trying to understand anatomy and physiology from a psychological standpoint. All right, so now let's, we have 20 more minutes. I'm just going to quickly show you how you can build assignments, and then I'll show you live polling, and then we'll leave the last 10 minutes for questions. So assignments, like I told you, you can create an assignment super easy on Learner. You can build a homework, which is traditional, or your test. So I want to create one for sensation. You can put your instructions here, which could be links, whatever you want. Study. Remember, I told you that all of this is going to be a custom course. So essentially, you could tell us that, hey, we do not teach these 4 chapters, and we want a chapter from biology or something, and that will be what shows up here. So in sensation, let's say I'd like to not include, for whatever reason, that specific chapter section. So you can omit that. So you're basically telling your students what to study for the assignment. Okay. Videos, like I mentioned before, you can literally preview everything apart from the textbook. You can preview everything on Learner while building the assignment. If this is something that you want your students to see.
Okay, so now we're going to look at the ear.
If that's something that's important to you, great. If you think that that's useless, you don't need to include that in your assignment. Activities, let's go back to sensation and perception. We will build a couple of them. So we're selecting all the activities for different chapter sections, and then we can modify that. Remember, I also told you can also add your own activities. You can create your own activities. In the interest of time, please schedule a demo with us, and we'll be able to show you a much longer version of what I'm showing you right now. Practice quizzes is something that, yeah, you can select from this. Again, same thing. These are all the number of questions, and if you select them by default, they'll be adaptive. If you want to cherry pick, you can. It's up to you. And we have a hidden homework bank. So unless you actually explicitly pick these quizzes, students don't know that they exist. So essentially, if you're trying to use these questions for your midterm or final exam, we recommend doing so. Or if you're trying to use this as part of your homework, we recommend using the practice quiz and activities for multiple attempts, where the homework quiz is a single attempt. So that way you get better efficacy reads about your students. So now next step, simply selecting whether this is graded or not. As you know, if you don't make it graded, nobody's going to do it, or at least majority of a class is not going to do it. Selecting the number of attempts, selecting some grade points. So these 20 grade points get transferred to your gradebook. These are all the game points. And in activities, when you hover on each of those names, you can click on customize. You can expand the activities. You can see the labels tell you the type of activity, and you can further expand it. Look at the activity, click on show answer. If this is something that you think your students might benefit from, you can select those. And once you're done, and let's say you want all the activities, you can come out of it, but let's say you only want to cherry pick some of them. And maybe in my case, I just built an activity using a histological slide. This is a matching activity, which I built. So I can add that and save it. So anything that you save, customize the activity. It says customize with a suffix. So it's easy for you to identify the ones that are defaulted to everything that learner provides versus what you've picked. Practice quiz is exactly the same process. We try to, it's through repetition, you kind of get used to it. And then if you leave it as is, students don't answer 15 questions. They typically answer 6 to 10 questions, depending on the size of the bank. It never exceeds 10 questions. All of our adaptive quizzes are maxed out at 10. And you can, and when you customize, let's actually click on one. Let's show you some of this. So I think one of the instructors are asking Bloom's level. So we tag every single question by Bloom's. So here there's an application-based question. It's a medium difficulty, and it's the type of modality. It's a multiple choice versus a hybrid, which was that fill in the blank that converts to a multiple choice. You can click on each of these questions, look at the responses, the correct answer, the feedback that we have. And if you still feel that something is wrong with this question, you can always click and report an issue. But if you feel everything is fine, then leave it as an adaptive quiz. And you can also pick your own questions that you've created, apart from the ones that we have. So the same process of activities, it's just that this time you're selecting questions versus activities. And the final step is selecting your class sections. Assume that you had more than one class section. You could select all of those class sections and have the same timeline or different timelines, have a start date in the future, an end date in the future, have a grace period. So we have a sliding scale for only the quizzes completed late. No other LMS platform actually provides that. And if you're interested, we'll talk about that a little more. You can extend for an individual student. This is to take care of all kinds of compliances. In this case, I think I only have student accounts like Yana and stuff. So I can have a different due date for that student as needed. And finally, I save it or save and publish it. And if this is Canvas, and once you publish, it'll automatically, the hot link will go and sit in Canvas. Now, you can pretty much set all of your assignments at the beginning of the term or before the beginning of the term, but the students will only see those assignments when they become available. Whenever the start date is current, that's the date that they actually see that there's an assignment. So you can technically set everything, all of your assignments at the beginning of the semester, but it will be released to the student only on the date of the start date. Okay. So in Sensation, you can simply click on publish. It gets published. But the students will not see this assignment till 2 weeks from now, because I think my start date was in the future. And now you can build templates out of it. So remember, I was telling you that once you build a template, you can share this template with other faculty members. You can do that. And when I say other faculty members, only other faculty members that are teaching the same course in your institution, not across institutions. Okay. And finally, when students are doing their assignments, it'll show up how many people have submitted, how many have not started, things like that. You can click on report. And this shows you quiz. These are all multiple quizzes and activities. It shows you the score for each student. You can also, some students will come back to you and say, hey, I was doing something happened. You can reset all the attempts. So you can do a lot of such thing. But from a data standpoint, let's say Mary comes to you and says, I need some help. I'm struggling somewhere. You can review what Mary was doing. Let's look at some of the practice quizzes. And you can see each of the questions, the responses that they provided, how much time did they take, and so on. So especially good for office hours. When you're having a one-on-one conversation with Mary, you can see what they've done. And then based on that, you can probably help provide remedial help. Cool. And finally, we have something called live polling, which we talked about. It's kind of in beta right now. You can build your own quizzes and you can upload your own slide deck. So you can simply click create, upload a slide deck. It could be whatever, PowerPoint or PDF. And once you upload a slide deck, you can edit the slide deck and embed questions in between the slides. So in this case, we have taken a topic like social anxiety disorder and CBT, and we have embedded questions. Like, for example, this is a random question where, this is a matching activity where students will be asked to match the parts of the brain to specific tasks. In this case, it could be something like semantic tasks or regulate emotions and so on. So regulating emotions, episodic memory, procedural memory. So make it a little more interactive rather than making it very boring, to get to know what students know and do not know. And then again, continue with your lecture. So again, this lecture has nothing to do with what I showed you, but ideally, when you present on Learner, you don't even need to share your screen. So essentially, I can hit beam, and I can start. This can be a graded activity. And what I'm going to do is, as a student, I go to my assignment section. I'm showing you a mobile view. I can join. And then, so now it shows me that student is, there's one student that's joined. I start my beam. So when I'm doing my beam, let me just put this somewhere so it's kind of out of the way for me. I could annotate on my beam, right? And the students would actually see that. So you don't really need to present your screen to them. They technically can see everything that you're doing. And the nice thing about it is you can actually navigate through slides, just like any other lecture capture platform. And you can go to a specific activity like this and ask the students to do this activity. So I could basically say that guy, episodic memory. What the heck is that? Okay. My mobile simulator is not the greatest, but it just gives you an idea of how students would just pin them down and then I would submit my response. And as I'm submitting my response, on the instructor side, I do see that, I don't know whether I can, okay. It says number of students responded. I can make this into a timed activity. I can close this. I can review how many students and where have they put their pins. And I can also review the response. I mean, I can show the students what the correct answers are. And in my case, I got it all right. I get a little bit of a celebration there. And you can do this. And finally, when you finish your lecture, automatically all the grade points, participation points and grade points will get transferred to your gradebook. And we have different activity types. This was just one. You can build a whole bunch of activity types here. You can have multiple select. In this case, or multiple choice. So we have about 6 to 8 activity types, and we're building more activity types as we speak. So that kind of gives you a brief idea of what happens. And then this automatically shows up on my gradebook as a student. So I was kind of simulating a student view here. And that's basically what our live polling platform is, including lecture slides and this. So we have like 6 minutes. If you have any questions, please let me know. So typically when we build a course we are trying, think about it as if we are building a master course for your institution. So for the same 100 psychology course, if everybody, it's the same syllabus across the institution, we're building a single master course for you. So essentially it's the least common denominator. So let's say there's 5 faculty members trying to use it, and maybe one of the faculty members does not teach a specific chapter, but most of them do. So we'll also include that chapter and make that into a master course, because it actually helps if you can collaborate on sharing templates, assignment templates, and so on and so forth. That's why we keep it that way. That's right. So we are very similar to a mastering biology or let's say MyPsych lab from Pearson. So it does integrate into Canvas, Blackboard. It does plug into, so Devin, it does plug into Canvas or Blackboard or whichever LMS, where students, what they do is they get a simple link on their, like in Canvas or Blackboard or Moodle or D2L. They click on that learner link and they're taken into Learner. And then everything that they do on Learner, the grades automatically sync back. So if you offer 5 sections, so it's 200 students times 40. So Michael, it's per student. So if there's 200 students in a single semester, you pay $40 per student. In a library model, we don't recommend the library model unless you have more than one course that is using Learner, right? Typically, when you are, having sociology, psychology, business, or the biology department completely uses Learner, that's when it makes more sense. Otherwise, there's no, there's no benefit from a student perspective. Awesome. So, okay, Kelly, I think you already answered. Yeah, so Kelly, I think your question has been answered. Every single instructor has their own space. So essentially they build their own assignments. They can use the assignments that other people have created if they're shared, otherwise they can do their own thing. So they're ultimately in control of how they run their class. Okay, so finally, let me just skim through some of our slides here. You can go to the OpenStax site and you could see excellent testimonials of other instructors or the department chairs already using Learner, whether it's in psychology or biology. We provide excellent customer support. One of the things that you didn't notice was the chat icon at the bottom of the screen. That allows you to interact with us in real time, either 7 days a week in the first 4 to 6 weeks, or 6 days a week, 6 days a week after the post initial period. So the hero's journey is you're the heroes. So after this webinar, let's say you like Learner, you can schedule a demo with us or discuss with us if you're happy with it, and then you can test drive Learner by yourself. You can tell us what courses you need. We will create those. We will give you access to all the courses. And then if you decide to use Learner, then we do 2 things. Behind the scenes, we work with your learning management or LMS admins to do the integration. And you tell us what chapters and sections from multiple titles. We'll build that custom course for you. We'll spend as much time as you want or your team wants to do onboarding, where we want to make sure that you're at least building 1 or 2 assignments successfully. And then after that, we are there with you throughout the journey. But you'll be ready by the time you're done with a couple of assignment building sessions. So if this is something that you guys want to discuss further, we'd love to meet. You could just say lrnr.us/demo and you can book a demo with us. You can pick a convenient time and book a demo, and off to more questions. So there's a Q&A. So Valerie Hartman, so do the drag and drop activities support keyboard navigation for accessibility? Can you speak to the accessibility of the learner interactions and platform? So we have done testing using JAWS and an open reader as well. From a text-to-speech, we have done some of those tests and they work well. Could we do better? Yes, absolutely. I think like every other platform, I don't want to give you a diplomatic answer or sugarcoat it. If you want activities, we are currently working with one of a large Texas college where we are looking at every single activity type that we have and trying to build in that keyboard shortcuts. I mean, that's probably what you're alluding to. I think that keyboard shortcuts will be available. I would not say the version 1 would be available by fall, but the stable version would probably be available by spring of next year. It is quite a bit of work. We have to do that with every activity after that. So we have set ourselves up for a goal to make sure that most of the stuff or most of the activities we have can also be used using keyboard shortcuts. So that's a question by Valerie. That's a great question, by the way. We can delete a chapter or chapter sections that we don't use. Absolutely, yeah, Kelly. So we'll customize the course. So that's the whole idea of customization. We don't even include the chapters you don't need. And we do all the work for you. So again, it's less pain for you. All right. Thank you so much for your time. And again, on the chat, you have the link that thanks, Lindsay, for providing that. You could also reach out to us at that site, that email. So you could either do learner.us/demo or adopt@learnfast.com, and we can provide you a personalized demo, discuss your needs, trying to see how we can align to your pedagogical needs, and then probably take it from there. And one thing I want to, before you guys leave, every one of the registrants that has, every one of the webinar attendees get a free summer term. If you want to try Learner out for free as a summer pilot, you could do so. I think some people left. Lindsay, I should have mentioned it much sooner. But I think we should definitely send them a note. So you get to use Learner for free. If you've never used Learner before, you get to use Learner for free, try it out, and then see if this is something that is beneficial to you. It's a friction-free approach. And if you like it, then you adopt it. Otherwise, give us feedback on what you didn't like and what else you need before it becomes a viable solution for you guys.
Thank you so much for sharing, Arvind, and thank you for such an engaging demo today. I know that I learned a lot, and I'm sure that our audience members did as well. So thank you once again for a great presentation, and thank you everyone for taking the time out of your day to join us. We really appreciate it, and I hope that everyone has a great rest of their day.
Thank you, Lindsay, as always. Thank you, folks, for joining us. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.